With our last team on this list, who do we put here, Caleb?
The Houston Rockets.
I gotta get a couple rust off a couple of my jump shots, but I ain't played in 2 years and 5 days, man. I'm just happy to be out here. I play with a great group of guys, being in a great city like H-Town, and then get coached out as these first one.
Houston Rockets. That's another team that me and Caleb were very iffy on to start this year. On our power rankings, we were a little bit confused on where to put them, but we eventually had them as a playoff team, especially with that roster. We talked about it. We said with Harden, that's definitely a playoff team, a possible contender, right? And we said without Harden, that's probably a playoff team. And they've shown it in their first game against OKC. That ended up getting postponed because of I'm not gonna talk about James Harden and him going to the strip clubs. I'm not gonna do it. But whatever. Got postponed. John Wall, DeMarcus were out 10 days because of coronavirus. So because of that, they played at Portland, at Denver. Had to take 2 L's without Harden, without Eric Gordon, without DeMarcus Cousins, and without John Wall. They're four of their five top players they were missing. Started off the season 0-2, played against Sacramento, my team, barely squeaked by on the first one. James Harden took over in that fourth quarter. He dominated in that last 4 or 5 minutes. And just after recording this, the Rockets just beat the Kings again, in which Harden didn't play and John Wall looked like butter. Man, Caleb, I don't know if you watched any of John Wall, but he is looking like the new bar. And I know a lot of us talk about Derrick Rose as he was the guy of this is the guy you want to be post injury, right? It's a guy that can come back from an ACL and still have a productive career. He might not be that near that same player, but he can still have that career. We're seeing it with guys like Kevin Durant, but also a guy like John Wall. If you told me, hey, I'm in a coma and I wake up 2 years later and I don't know anything, and I watched John Wall today, I would not expect him to have an injury.
Hey, I agree. He's been killing it. What do you have tonight? 28 points. But like the crazy thing to me is he hasn't lost his step. I don't know how. I don't know how he managed to do it, but he looks just as good as he did before. I mean, I don't know. I think they look good. You know, a team I think should trade for James Harden though, or should make a move for James Harden.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The Boston Celtics.
No, I'm talking about the Houston Rockets to figure out how to make him happy and how to get him to stay in Houston. Because honestly, the way Christian Wood is playing, John Wall is playing good, Boogie looks fine. That might be the best fit for Harden right now. And I know that sounds crazy considering everything that happened in the past 2 months. But this team looks really, really good. And I was a big advocate that, sure, Houston's been good the past couple years in the regular season with Westbrook and Chris Paul. But my thing is, I never thought that those like point guard was the main thing he needed help with. I always thought he needed a good big to be good and to like really reach that next level. And Christian Wood so far looks really good. And even Boogie's looking really, really good. So this might be his best option to stay in Houston. I know that sounds crazy, but my thing is with Harden and how you watch him, how he just takes over a game like it's easy. His first game back, he had 44 and 16. Imagine if he loved basketball and imagine if he loved playing in Houston. He could be like unbelievably. It's just, I don't know. It's spitballing right now, but I'd like to see him stay in Houston. I'd like to see them figure out a way to make him happy.
Man, if Harden loved the game of basketball, I think we would see even a different level of a player because he's a guy that, man, if you watch him play, he is a guy that's completely out of shape and doesn't care. And look what he's doing with the Rockets this year. So one thing I will say is I completely agree with you on the fact that they needed a big. I thought they always needed a good big. I think Capella's overrated in that aspect, and I don't think he's the guy. One thing I will disagree with you on is the point guard aspect. You said how you didn't think necessarily he needed a good point guard. I will say that Chris Paul really helped him and allowed him to compete against one of the best teams of all time, like the Warriors teams that we saw. And now with John Wall, I think you could see that again of maybe not competing against the Lakers right away. But hey, I wouldn't be surprised if with John Wall, healthy Harden, and a motivated Harden, I think that's really key. A healthy Christian Wood, you have DeMarcus off the bench, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, all healthy. That team can make a run for their money. I would not be surprised at all.
I agree 100%.